Life is not measured by how long we live, but by how deeply we live. Every single one of us is writing a story every day, whether we realize it or not. That story is not written only in the big victories, the achievements, or the milestones. It is written in the silent moments when no one is watching. It is written in the choices we make, the values we hold, and the way we treat others. Too often, people spend their entire lives chasing things that don't matter, only to realize, too late, that what truly counted was never what they thought. The truth is, life is fragile. It is temporary. And what will matter in the end are not the trophies, not the applause, not the fleeting recognition. What will matter are the goals you pursued with purpose, the relationships you built with love, the wealth you used wisely, the kindness you gave freely, and the struggles you overcame with resilience. This is not a speech about success as the world defines it. This is about success as life defines it. It's about understanding the 5 realities that shape our legacy: your long-term goals and plans, your personal life and relationships, your finances and wealth, your good deeds and acts of kindness, and yes, even your weaknesses and struggles. Because when it's all said and done, these are the things that will define who you truly are. So, as you listen, don't just hear these words. Reflect on your own life. Ask yourself, what am I building? What will I leave behind? And how will I be remembered? Because the answers to those questions will determine whether you merely existed or whether you truly lived. When we talk about long-term goals and plans, we are not simply talking about writing down a few aspirations on paper or putting together a vision board. We are talking about something far deeper: your life's direction, your purpose, your personal map of where you want to go. These goals represent the essence of who you are becoming, not just what you want to achieve. And because they carry that much weight, they deserve to be handled with a level of care and protection that many people overlook. Too often, individuals share their biggest dreams too soon, not realizing that premature exposure can kill a dream before it even has the chance to breathe. Think about how fragile a seed is when it is first planted. You don't dig it out of the soil every day to show your neighbors that it's growing. You water it, protect it, let the sun do its work, and give it time to strengthen underground before it breaks through the surface. Your long-term goals and plans are exactly like that seed. In the beginning, they are vulnerable. They are not ready to withstand criticism, doubt, or even well-meaning advice that can derail your focus. The earliest stages of an idea, a dream, or a goal are the most critical, and exposing them too soon can be the very thing that prevents them from ever reaching maturity. One of the reasons to keep your long-term goals private is because not everyone will understand them. Your vision is personal. It comes from your experiences, your values, and your sense of purpose. When you tell someone about it, you are asking them to see the world through your eyes, and the truth is, they can't. They may dismiss it, question it, or unintentionally plant seeds of doubt in your mind. Suddenly, what was once a burning fire within you begins to flicker, not because your goal was wrong, but because you let outside voices influence your belief in it. It's not that people are malicious, it's just that your goals are not their goals. Your path is not their path. Another reason is that goals, once spoken aloud, can sometimes create a false sense of accomplishment. There's a strange psychological effect that occurs when you tell people your plans. Your brain releases a small hit of dopamine, the same chemical you get when you actually achieve something. In that moment, you feel good, as though you've already done part of the work. But the truth is, you haven't. You've only talked about it. This can trick your mind into believing progress has been made, when in reality, the only thing that has moved is your lips. Protecting your goals from premature exposure helps you keep that drive alive because you don't substitute words for action. Privacy also builds discipline. When your goals are private, you have no external validation to lean on. There is no applause, no encouragement, no one to pat you on the back for simply having a dream. All you have is yourself and the quiet work you put in every single day. That can feel lonely at times, but it's in that solitude that discipline is forged. You learn to show up for your future self, not for the approval of others. You learn to act out of conviction, not out of a desire for recognition. That's where true strength is built, when you pursue something because it matters to you, not because others are watching. And then there's the element of protection. Not everyone has your best interests at heart. Some people may want to see you succeed, but others may feel threatened by your ambition. They may try to discourage you, not because your idea lacks value, but because your courage reminds them of their own inaction. They see in you what they haven't been able to do themselves, and instead of cheering you on, they project their fears and limitations onto you. If you allow too many of those voices into your space, they will start to drown out your own. That's why silence is powerful. Silence is a shield. Silence protects what is sacred until it's ready to stand on its own. There is also a level of sacredness to your goals that often gets overlooked. Not everything in life is meant to be shared, tweeted, or broadcast. Some things are meant to stay between you and the deeper part of yourself that knows why it matters. Your goals are not just tasks, they are pieces of your identity. When you put them out for public consumption too early, they become diluted. They are no longer purely yours. They become subject to everyone else's interpretation. Holding them close allows them to grow authentically, untouched by external influence. It's not about secrecy for the sake of secrecy. It's about nurturing something valuable until it's strong enough to withstand the world. Once you have made real progress, once the foundation is solid, once the results start to speak for themselves, then you can share. By that point, your goals are no longer fragile ideas. They are living realities backed by proof. And proof is undeniable. When people see what you've accomplished, they can no longer dismiss it as unrealistic or naive. They can only acknowledge it. The power of keeping your long-term goals private is not in hiding them, but in protecting them. It's in understanding that not everything needs to be said out loud, that your silence can be more powerful than your words. Because in that silence, you are not seeking permission. You are not asking for validation. You are not opening yourself up to unnecessary distractions. You are simply doing the work. You are building in the dark so that one day your results can shine in the light. Your personal life and relationships form the foundation of who you are. They shape your character, influence your decisions, and provide the emotional stability that allows you to move through the world with confidence. Yet, in a time when oversharing has become the norm, where people post every detail of their private life for the world to see, the value of privacy has been forgotten. There is a difference between being open and being exposed. Openness builds trust with the right people, but exposure makes your life vulnerable to opinions, judgments, and interference from people who were never meant to have a voice in your personal matters. When you expose too much of your personal life, you invite others to interpret it through their lens. They don't see your experiences as you lived them. They see fragments of your story and piece them together with their assumptions. This creates a distorted picture of your reality. Suddenly, you find yourself defending choices you never should have had to explain or justifying actions that were deeply personal but misunderstood by outsiders. The more you give others access to the most intimate parts of your life, the more control they have over how you are perceived. Privacy, on the other hand, protects your relationships from being defined by outside noise. The people closest to you, your family, your partner, your close friends, deserve protection from the scrutiny of others. Relationships thrive in an environment of trust, understanding, and respect. When you expose them to constant external attention, you introduce pressure. Pressure to appear a certain way, to prove something, to maintain an image that pleases the outside world. But true relationships aren't about image, they're about connection. They're about shared moments that don't need validation from likes, comments, or public approval. By keeping the details of your personal life private, you give your relationships the safe space they need to breathe and grow without interference. There's also the reality that not everyone who observes your life has good intentions. Some people are supportive, but others thrive on gossip, negativity, and comparison. When they see glimpses of your personal life, they may use that information to judge you, to undermine you, or to inject doubt into your relationships. A happy relationship can suddenly look like a competition to someone else. A family challenge can quickly become fuel for gossip. Protecting your private life is not about hiding. It is about refusing to hand over ammunition that could be used against you or the people you love. Another reason to keep your personal life private is to preserve authenticity. When you share too much publicly, you unconsciously start tailoring your actions for the audience. You begin to live for how things appear rather than how they truly feel. Instead of making choices based on what is right for you and your loved ones, you make choices based on how others will perceive them. This creates a false version of reality where the image matters more than the substance. But when your personal life remains private, your choices are guided by your values, your truth and your heart, not by the approval or disapproval of strangers. There is strength in intimacy. Think about the most meaningful moments you've experienced with the people you care about. They are often small, quiet, and unshared with the world. A late night conversation, a shared laugh, an embrace during a difficult time. These moments don't need to be broadcast. In fact, their power lies in the fact that they are shared only by the people involved. They create a bond that is sacred because it exists outside the reach of public consumption. When you protect your personal life, you allow these bonds to deepen. You allow trust to build naturally without the interference of external commentary. It's important to remember that privacy does not mean secrecy. Secrecy is rooted in fear, fear of being judged, fear of being misunderstood, fear of being seen. Privacy, however, is rooted in strength. It is the recognition that not everything requires an audience. It is the decision to protect what is meaningful by keeping it in the circle of people who truly matter. This distinction is what allows you to live authentically while still safeguarding the core of your relationships. We live in a world that often confuses visibility with value. The more people can see of your life, the more validated you're supposed to feel. But validation from others is temporary, fleeting, and shallow. True value comes from the quiet confidence of knowing that your personal life doesn't need to be on display to be real. In fact, it's the very privacy of it that makes it so genuine. When you don't need to prove the strength of your relationships to the world, you show that the connection itself is enough. Protecting your personal life also creates boundaries. Boundaries are not walls meant to shut people out. They are fences that define where respect begins. By keeping your personal matters private, you communicate to the world that certain parts of your life are not up for public consumption. This teaches people how to treat you. It establishes a standard of respect that ensures your relationships are not trivialized or made vulnerable to careless opinions. Boundaries preserve dignity, and dignity is one of the most important foundations of lasting, healthy connections. The truth is, the happiest and most fulfilled people are not those who display every aspect of their lives for the world to see. They are the ones who live deeply in the moments that matter and share them selectively with the people who matter. They are not performing for the crowd. They are living for themselves and those they love. When your personal life and relationships are protected, you live with a freedom that others cannot take away. You live with the quiet assurance that what is most valuable to you does not need the world's validation because it is already validated by the love, trust, and connection you share with the people who truly know you. Money is one of the most misunderstood and emotionally charged topics in human life. It has the power to open doors, to provide freedom, and to create opportunities, but it also has the ability to generate jealousy, conflict, and even betrayal. Because of the weight that finances and wealth carry, they are not something that should be shared loosely. The details of what you earn, how much you save, or how you invest belong in the realm of privacy, not public discussion. Keeping your finances private is not about secrecy or shame. It is about wisdom. It is about recognizing that not everyone around you needs to know how much you make or what you own, because with that knowledge comes consequences that are often beyond your control. When you reveal too much about your financial situation, you expose yourself to the opinions and expectations of others. Some people will applaud you, while others will quietly resent you. Some will admire your success, but others may feel threatened by it. Jealousy is a silent destroyer of relationships. Even people who care about you can start to see you differently when they know too much about your wealth. What used to be a genuine connection can suddenly turn into comparison. Instead of focusing on who you are as a person, people begin to measure you against what you have. By keeping your finances private, you avoid planting seeds of envy that could weaken the trust and respect in your relationships. Another reason to keep your wealth private is to protect yourself from exploitation. When people know you have money, they may approach you with hidden agendas. Some may ask for favors, loans, or opportunities, not because they care about your well-being, but because they see your resources as a solution to their own problems. Others might try to manipulate you into investments or schemes that serve their interests more than yours. The more people know about your financial capacity, the more they may feel entitled to a piece of it. Privacy acts as a shield against such exploitation. It allows you to choose freely how to use your wealth without external pressure or manipulation. There is also a psychological aspect to financial privacy. When you openly share details about your income or assets, you may unconsciously create pressure for yourself to maintain or exceed those numbers. Suddenly, you are no longer pursuing wealth for your own stability or freedom. You are pursuing it to uphold an image in the eyes of others. That kind of pressure is unsustainable. It ties your self-worth to your bank account and traps you in a cycle of comparison. But when you keep your financial matters private, you remove the audience. You are no longer performing for anyone. You are simply managing your resources in alignment with your values, your needs, and your long-term vision. Keeping your finances private also nurtures humility. Wealth is powerful, but flaunting it diminishes its value. True security does not come from announcing what you have, but from knowing you don't need to. The quiet confidence of financial stability is worth far more than the fleeting satisfaction of impressing others. When people don't know what you own or earn, they relate to you for who you are, not for what you have. This keeps relationships authentic. It allows you to move through life without constantly questioning whether someone is drawn to you as a person or attracted to the benefits of your wealth. Another important dimension is safety. Financial exposure can make you vulnerable in ways you may not anticipate. In a world where information travels quickly, sharing too much can put you at risk of theft, scams, or even targeted harm. Privacy is not just about protecting your dignity, it is also about protecting your security. By limiting who knows about your wealth, you reduce the chances of being targeted by those who would take advantage of it. In many ways, silence is the best form of protection you can give yourself and your family. It's also worth noting that wealth can create distance if it is handled carelessly. People may assume things about you based on your financial status, whether true or not. They may think you live an easier life, that you don't struggle, or that you can't understand their challenges. But money does not erase human experience. It simply adds another layer to it. By keeping financial matters private, you prevent others from boxing you into stereotypes or assumptions that diminish the complexity of who you are. Privacy allows you to remain relatable, approachable, and grounded, regardless of how much you own. Wealth, at its core, is a tool. It is not meant to be the measure of your worth, but a means to create choices, opportunities, and security. When you treat it with humility and discretion, you honor its purpose. You understand that it is not the numbers in your account that define your legacy, but how you use those resources to shape your life and, when appropriate, to impact others. The quiet use of wealth is often more powerful than the loud display of it. Acts of generosity done privately carry more authenticity than those done with the need for recognition. By keeping your finances private, you preserve the dignity of both your wealth and your character. Financial privacy also helps you focus on the journey instead of the scoreboard. When people know too much about your finances, they inevitably keep track. They compare your progress to theirs, and in some cases, they may even root for your setbacks. But when your wealth is private, the only competition you face is with yourself. You measure progress by your own standards, not by anyone else's expectations. This frees you from the exhausting cycle of external validation and allows you to build a life that is truly your own. At the end of the day, money reveals more about people than it hides. It reveals who envies you, who respects you, and who might try to use you. By keeping your finances private, you avoid unnecessary conflict, protect your relationships, and maintain control over how your wealth serves your life. Privacy in this area is not about building walls. It is about creating the space for your financial resources to do what they were meant to do. Provide freedom, stability, and choice without being weighed down by the opinions, judgments, or expectations of the outside world. There is something profoundly powerful about doing good for others, helping someone in need, offering a hand when no one else will, or showing compassion in a moment where it matters most. These actions reveal the best parts of humanity. Yet, in a world that thrives on visibility, recognition, and public approval, acts of kindness have too often become performances rather than genuine expressions of the heart. Too many people are quick to broadcast their good deeds, to showcase them for validation, forgetting that the truest form of kindness does not need an audience. What makes an act of goodness authentic is not the recognition it receives, but the intention behind it. When you keep your good deeds private, you preserve the purity of your actions. Kindness is most meaningful when it comes without strings, without the expectation of applause or reward. The moment you turn an act of compassion into a display, it risks becoming about you rather than the person you helped. Instead of uplifting them, it becomes a way to elevate yourself in the eyes of others. True kindness loses its essence when it is overshadowed by the need for acknowledgement. By keeping it private, you ensure that your motivation remains genuine, driven by empathy and love rather than vanity. There is also a deeper sense of fulfillment that comes from doing good in silence. When you help someone quietly without fanfare, you experience a unique kind of satisfaction. It is not the fleeting thrill of recognition, but the lasting peace of knowing you did the right thing simply because it was right. That peace cannot be replicated by applause or praise. It comes from aligning your actions with your values, from knowing that your character is defined by what you do when no one is watching. The world may never know, but you know. And that inner knowing strengthens you far more than external validation ever could. Keeping your acts of kindness private also protects the dignity of those you help. When you showcase someone else's struggles in order to highlight your generosity, you risk turning their pain into your platform. Not everyone wants to be seen in their most vulnerable state. By making their need public, you can unintentionally add shame or embarrassment to a moment when they already feel exposed. True kindness respects the humanity of others. It lifts them without putting them on display. It gives them hope without making them feel like a spectacle. Protecting their dignity means helping them in ways that affirm their worth, not in ways that amplify their hardship for the world to see. There is another layer to this as well. Humility. Humility is not about denying your strengths or pretending you haven't done something good. It is about understanding that your actions do not make you superior to others. When you keep your good deeds private, you cultivate humility. You remind yourself that kindness is not a performance, it is a responsibility. It is not a way to show the world how great you are, but a way to remind the world that goodness still exists. In this way, humility keeps your heart aligned with service rather than self-promotion. The quiet act of kindness also carries a ripple effect. When someone receives help without strings, they often feel inspired to pass it on. They may never know your name, but they will remember the impact. That memory can inspire them to help another person, who then helps another, creating a chain reaction of goodness that spreads far beyond what you could have imagined. Ironically, it is the kindness that is done quietly, without recognition, that often travels the farthest. It is pure, untainted by ego, and therefore more likely to ignite genuine gratitude and generosity in others. In a culture obsessed with sharing every moment, privacy has become rare. But privacy is where authenticity grows. When you choose to keep your acts of kindness private, you create a sacred space between yourself and the action. It becomes a conversation between your heart and your values, untouched by the noise of the outside world. That space allows your character to strengthen. It reminds you that who you are is defined by your actions, not by what others think of your actions. It is also worth remembering that not every good deed needs to be seen to have value. In fact, some of the most transformative moments in people's lives come from acts of kindness, so small and quiet that no one else would notice. A word of encouragement, a listening ear, a gesture of support. These are the kinds of things that never make headlines, but leave a mark on someone's soul forever. If those moments were shared publicly, their magic would be diminished. The beauty of kindness lies in its simplicity, and simplicity does not require an audience. When you look at history, some of the most impactful people lived this truth. Their legacies were not built on what they shouted about their generosity, but on the consistent, quiet ways they served others. They understood that greatness is not in what you proclaim, but in what you practice. The world remembers them not because they demanded recognition, but because their actions were too powerful to be ignored. And even then, much of their goodness will never be known because they chose to give silently, and in that silence, their impact multiplied. Keeping your good deeds private is not about diminishing their importance. On the contrary, it elevates them. It preserves their authenticity, protects the dignity of those you help, and allows you to experience the deepest kind of fulfillment. The kind that comes from knowing you did something meaningful without needing anyone else to know. It strengthens your character, nurtures humility, and allows kindness to spread in its purest form. Every human being carries weaknesses and struggles, Yet the way we choose to handle them makes the difference between resilience and vulnerability. Our challenges are deeply personal, often tied to experiences, fears, and insecurities that shape who we are. While there is strength in being open and vulnerable with the right people, there is also wisdom in protecting your weaknesses from the wrong audience. Not everyone deserves access to the most fragile parts of your story. Not everyone has the intention, the maturity, or the compassion to handle your struggles with care. Some will empathize, some will support, but others may use what you reveal against you. This is why your weaknesses and struggles should not be placed in the hands of just anyone. When you share your difficulties with the wrong people, you risk arming them with information that can harm you. Struggles are not just stories, they are parts of your identity that carry weight and vulnerability. For some, knowing where you hurt becomes an opportunity to control, manipulate, or belittle you. They may disguise it as concern, but in reality, they exploit your openness to feel stronger themselves. When your pain is in the wrong hands, it can be turned into a weapon. Protecting your struggles is not about hiding who you are. It is about making sure you don't give power to those who would use your pain for their advantage. There is also a danger in exposing your struggles too widely. In a culture where sharing has become a form of validation, many believe that telling the world about their hardships is empowering, but sometimes premature exposure does more harm than good. Sharing a struggle you have not yet overcome can open the door to unnecessary judgment and misunderstanding. People may label you, define you by your hardship, or reduce you to your weaknesses rather than seeing the full picture of who you are. Instead of being a person on a journey of growth, you become a story of struggle in the eyes of others. This can trap you in an identity you are trying to move beyond. Protecting your weaknesses also allows you the space to heal. Healing requires a safe environment where you can process your emotions without interference. When too many people know about your pain, their opinions, their advice, and their judgments can overwhelm your process. You may feel pressure to heal on their timeline, to show progress for their comfort, or to pretend you are stronger than you really feel. Privacy gives you the freedom to work through your struggles at your own pace. It gives you room to confront your pain honestly without having to worry about how it looks to others. That doesn't mean you must carry your struggles alone. It means you should be intentional about who you trust with them. Sharing your pain with someone who truly cares, who has earned your trust, and who has the capacity to support you can be transformative. The right people will not exploit your weaknesses. They will hold space for them. They will remind you of your strength without diminishing your struggle. But these people are rare, and finding them requires discernment. Protecting your weaknesses is not about isolation. It is about choosing wisely where you place your vulnerability. Weaknesses and struggles are not permanent definitions. They are temporary states of being. They are opportunities for growth, learning, and transformation. But when you share them carelessly, people may begin to treat them as permanent parts of your identity. They may say, "This is who you are," instead of, "This is what you're going through." They may lock you into a box you never asked to be placed in. Privacy gives you the chance to rewrite your own story before others try to write it for you. It allows you to define your struggles in the context of growth, not as labels that limit who you are. There is also power in mystery. When others cannot see your weaknesses, they cannot easily predict or undermine you. They may assume you are strong in ways you are still developing, and in that assumption lies an advantage. Strength is not always about being invulnerable. It is about knowing when and how to reveal vulnerability. By keeping your weaknesses private, you maintain control over how others perceive you. You decide when to reveal, when to seek support, and when to show strength. That control is not about deception, it is about self-preservation. It is natural to want to be understood, to want to share your struggles with others, but not everyone has earned the right to know your story. Some people may not have the capacity to hold your truth. Others may lack the empathy to respond with compassion. And some may simply not deserve that level of intimacy with you. Protecting your struggles is an act of self-respect. It is the acknowledgement that your journey is sacred and not everyone should have access to it. Your weaknesses and struggles are part of your humanity, but they are also part of your strength. They remind you that growth is ongoing, that life is not about perfection, but about progress. When handled with care, they become lessons. When handled carelessly, they become liabilities. The choice of how they are handled begins with you. By keeping them private, by sharing them only with those who have earned your trust, you honor your journey, you preserve your dignity, you give yourself the freedom to struggle, to fall, to rise, and to grow without interference from those who would rather watch than support. When the final chapter of our lives is written, the world will not remember us for how busy we were, how many possessions we owned, or how loud our name echoed in the halls of fame. It will remember us for the impact we had on others, for the lives we touched, and for the way we carried ourselves through both triumph and struggle. Your goals and dreams are not just ambitions. They are the blueprint of your legacy. Your relationships are not just connections, they are the measure of your humanity. Your wealth is not just money, it is a tool, and how you use it defines whether it becomes a blessing or a burden. Your good deeds are not just actions, they are seeds, and long after you are gone, they continue to grow in the lives you've influenced. Even your weaknesses and struggles are not just flaws, they are teachers shaping you into someone stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. In the end, life will not ask you how perfect you were. It will ask you how real you were. Did you live with purpose? Did you love with depth? Did you give without expectation? Did you rise every time you fell? These are the questions that define a life well lived. So, let this not just be another moment where you listen and move on. Let this be a turning point. A reminder that every day is a page in the story you're writing. A reminder that you have the power to shape what truly matters. And a reminder that when the end comes, and it will, you will not regret the things you gave, the love you shared, or the courage you showed, because those are the things that will outlive you. Those are the things that make life meaningful. Those are the things that make life unforgettable.